Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today is day 3 of my Halloween week of videos, and today I'm going to talk about the film The Hands of Orlac from 1924. The Hands of Orlac is directed by and starring the director and star of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Robert Wayne and Conrad Veidt. But it's different from that film. You're probably thinking, is this like German Expressionism? It shares a lot of similarities, probably because it's like directed by the same guy, and made a few years after that film. But Robert Wayne is going for more of a natural look combined with the blocking and cinematography you expect from Expressionism. So what you get is kind of an interesting looking silent film. The sets aren't as hallucinatory and insane as Dr. Caligari. They're trying to go for more of a natural setting, but the blocking and how they do those shots makes it more unsettling in a way, and their weird framing gives it a strange gothic feel to it that when something horrifying or creepy does happen, you're instantly more scared by it because of that. It's an interesting feel to it. It's kind of an odd silent film and an odd use of the German Expressionist style, even though it's done a little more subtly than you'd really expect from full-on German Expressionism like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. A famous concert pianist who loses his hand in a horrible railroad accident. After that, a doctor decides, because his wife is like, he can't lose his hands, he loves his hands and she loves being touched by him, which is kind of overbearing foreshadowing thing they have going throughout this film. So this surgeon decides to take the hands of a killer named Vosur, take off the killer's hands who's been executed, and put them on Orlac. And when Orlac wakes up, he doesn't feel the same. He can't play piano again, even though the surgeon's saying that the mind controls the hands, so he should be able to play piano. His handwriting isn't the same, and he feels wrong. He feels like something isn't right, and slowly he feels evil things are happening because of the hands that are attached to him. Now, this is really not a new concept to anyone who's a lover of film and horror film, but this is one of the first films to ever do that storyline. I can't read anywhere that it's the first, which I'm wondering if someone knows of a film that is before this one, and if so, please comment and let me know. But maybe everyone's just saying that for safety, because maybe there is one. This is based on a book written by Maurice Renard and a play written by Ludwig Nertz. It's interesting how much of an influence this film would have. A lot of people say it goes all the way to influence films like Body Parts, which is a film I reviewed from the early 90s. It was remade twice, once as Mad Love with Peter Lorre, another time under the same name, The Hands of Orlac, with Christopher Lee. It's the kind of thing that became more laughable as time went on, but what you have to understand about 1924, medicine really wasn't what it is today or 40 years ago or anything like that. So the way the surgeon is portrayed in this film is a surgeon who doesn't exactly know what he's doing. Medicine wasn't an exact science. It's still not an exact science, but whatever. You're kind of discovering a lot. There are a lot of advances in medicine going on at the time, but this kind of idea, people were a lot more superstitious then, I think was a lot more believable to audiences then. This was a major hit for the director Robert Wayne. The Austrian and German censors, they really didn't want any teenagers or younger seeing this film, and it actually, when it got released in America, it took like 3 or 4 years to get released in America. It was majorly cut down because of that, which is unfortunate. It didn't do well in America because people didn't see the movie we're seeing today that you can see on Netflix and on the Internet Archive and throughout YouTube. You couldn't see that film. It wasn't released in the US. I don't know the butchered version. Apparently people like Conrad Veidt, but that's about it, and it didn't do very well. Because you're telling a film through visuals and no sound at all, some of the acting in this and the way they do staging, they're very much in the German Expressionist mode. Conrad Veidt's performance as Orlac, he does a lot of things with his hands. If you've seen any poster of it, his hands are like this, and he's always like big acting with his hands like that, and that can be a bit much. There's some silent film acting, and with older films, there's some films that age very well, and there's some that turn into vinegar. With this film, there's certain sequences where it is a bit much, but he does have to convey what's going on to the audience, and he is kind of very much trying to do kind of a German Expressionist thing. So there's a lot of things going on. I actually think he does a very, very good job, because when he gets it to count, it really counts. And this is the kind of silent horror film that can really hit you and shock you. And when it needs that intensity, it really uses it and surprises you. It makes you really feel those intense moments. And it's because he's really expressed what's going on. But it's a different kind of acting, really. Conrad Veidt is very good in it, and he's able to express all that through his performance. One of the things about silent film protagonists is they really made them go through a really horrible journey. Their lives are falling apart and all these horrible things would happen to them and their lives are awful. The bad things would just keep piling up and up and up, and it just looked like an insurmountable odds, and then the guy and the girl would get back together and everything would be fine. That works so well with a horror film. Think of how many horror films are really like that. I think silent film and horror can work really well together, and Hands of Orlac shows that really well. He does that same thing where after he can't play piano anymore, they're going broke and the debt collectors are going after them and he's going insane because of these hands, and he's not sure if he can do evil, and she wants to be touched by him but he doesn't want to touch her because he's got evil hands. Like, it just keeps building and building and building in a way a silent film naturally does. I liked how Robert Wayne, I've said it a lot of times, it's a famous Ebert quote, it's not what a film's about, it's how it is about it. I was hesitant to do another film about somebody getting somebody's body part and being haunted by it or being possessed, but the way Robert Wayne does this is very interesting, using German expressionism to do something different with it. Maybe it would have just been cool to have just a regular kind of German expressionist version of the Hands of Orlac, but he uses a lot of that framing to do something different. It shows the lessons he learned as a filmmaker and shows an evolution to it, which is really something you like to see through a filmmaker's filmography. And he uses it to tell a really dark kind of gothic tale. I've seen a lot of stories of a murderer's eye getting put in a person, or a murderer's leg, or, you know, all sorts of body parts. But this is the first one that I really genuinely enjoyed and creeped me out and thought was an interesting take on it. It made me believe in this concept and believe, oh, someone could totally do this again. And maybe that's why that's kept happening. A lot of the versions of it are kind of looser remakes, and a lot of the people aren't exactly acknowledging that they're influenced by this, but it was kind of the first major success to do this, or at least to my knowledge. But I think that's the cool thing about the Hands of Orlac. It was really the most effective, different kind of version. Most of the other ones never are as inventive as this film is. There's more to this film than just he got a murderer's hand. It has this interesting German expressionist tint on it. The lighting is so interesting where you're just seeing this void of black behind them, and that nothingness scares me and intrigues me and makes me feel like I'm in this dark, depressing castle. Robert Wayne is so expressive in his cinematography in this film that you can kind of figure out what's going on. I really think this would probably be a film that if you were in Germany at the time and you couldn't read, you could totally understand. There's one scene where she's sitting like I'm sitting now and the creditors are all standing behind her and she's pleading and they all just shake their heads. Wow, that does feel like Creditors. And Robert Wayne essentially got how to do very simple visual storytelling very well and told his story very clearly and effectively, but in this like interesting slant on it. It's interesting sometimes you see where a story or an idea or a filmmaking idea comes from. And what's always interesting to me is a lot of times you see that the original took it a lot further and was a lot more daring than all the imitators or all the people who also did it later would be. And that's definitely true with the Hands of Orlac. It was more daring, it did different things with it, and it's more than just a stupid story of somebody getting a murderer's hands and they might murder someone because of it. Some of the times the visuals, particularly in the railroad sequence, felt a little messy. Sometimes the visuals aren't as great, but the visuals that are great make it worthwhile and make the Hands of Orlac a surprising silent horror film and shows you why this story got remade so many times throughout the history of horror filmmaking. How this being one of the first major successes of that kind of inspired that going on throughout the rest of horror film history. So if you have seen The Hands of Orlac and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. And come back tomorrow for day 4 of my Halloween week of videos. Thank you for watching the first 3 videos, if you did. If not, thank you for watching this one at least. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you tomorrow.